Hello everyone, Bill here. Thank you very much for tuning in. Well, it's wintertime, but campfire season doesn't necessarily have to be over. People are going up skiing, snowshoeing, tobogganing, snowmobiling. I'm going to show how the absolute beginner can learn how to have a campfire even in the winter. I'll explain what you need, places you could go, and where you'll get your wood. So let's say you don't know anything about campfires, but you've decided you want to go up to the mountains in the wintertime for a campfire. You got the holiday cheer. You could be going by yourself with a partner. You could be a single parent and want to take the kids up for hot dogs and marshmallows. You can do it. Well, where could you go? Let's figure that out first. Somewhere in your area, there could be a Forest Service road, or a few. A lot of them are plowed and sanded and salted because there's homes up in the area. So you drive up the Forest Service road and you can find a clearing on the side. You can find recreational sites, and you can find campsites that have day use areas. Depending on how much snow there is, you might not be able to drive into the rec site. You might have to leave your vehicle on the main Forest Service road and walk in. And again, depending on how much snow there is, you might be able to drive down and off a side logging road. You can download a backroads map of the area onto your phone, and it works out of self-service area. Google Earth works a little bit. It won't show roads, but it'll kind of show your proximity to lakes and stuff. Of course, having a GPS system helps if you have one. There's not a lot of people in the bush at this time of year, especially during the week. If you're going to go up, pick a weekend. There'll be outdoor winter people up. Don't stay late. Leave before dark. And be prepared to spend an emergency night in the bush. Drive down slow. Better to get home than not get home. So driving in the bush on a Forest Service road, even if it's plowed and sanded and salted, you do not want to drive over 30 kilometers an hour. You hit potholes, washboard, and plus it's slippery, and your vehicle will it'll go right into the ditch or off the side of the road. Not fun. If you have a four-wheel drive with good winter tires, you can drive on side logging roads with a few inches of snow, no problem. If you add V-bar chains, you can drive in a good 1.5 feet of snow. So let's say you're past where there's no plowing and sanding and salting. You'll see that a lot of snowmobiles and side-by-sides have been driving out there, and it'll be packed. But on the side, it won't be packed. It'll be very soft. So you want to drive like super slow, like just super slow, because you just get going a little too much and then you slide off and you're stuck. You'll be stuck. Now, of course, if you have bush bumpers with winches and all, then it just adds fun to the day, kind of, for some people. Okay, so of course you want to have a reliable vehicle. Good winter tires. Make sure the tire pressure is good. All your fluids in the vehicle are good. Make sure you have a full tank of fuel. At the bottom of the road, before you even drive up, some 4x4 groups post phone numbers for emergency recovery. Take note of that phone number. And of course, tell someone where you're going and when you'll be back. If you're leaving your car to walk into somewhere, leave a note in your vehicle as well. So we're not done. Going into the snowy mountains is serious business, really. So you want to bring a scoop shovel, a little plastic scoop shovel. It'll help if you get stuck. It'll help clearing a spot for a fire. Some tow ropes. You can find them pretty cheap on buy and sell sites. Chuck them in the trunk. That way, if you get into the ditch, man, so nice to have. You hook them up and have them all ready, and then somebody just drives along and pulls you out. I'd throw in some blankets, extra water, extra food. All right, you got to dress good. You need a toque, a neck warmer, a good jacket, snow pants or wool pants, wool socks, good boots. Dress in layers, tight clothing, tight layers won't keep you warm. Sunglasses are nice to have. Some good gloves. Hand and feet warmers are nice to have. If you have some long johns, you for sure put those underneath. And an extra pair of socks in case you get wet from sweat or snow gets down your boot. It happens. It'd be nice to have those extra socks. All right, then there's a phone cord and a battery pack. If you have an SOS system, that's a great thing to bring along. A first aid kit, of course. When I'm running a chainsaw and using an axe, I bring up a combat tourniquet, quick clot, chest seals, gauze, and a 6-inch pressure dressing. Well, you need an axe and a hatchet. Being a newbie, I suggest a hatchet because it's easier to cut kindling with a hatchet than it is an axe. Maybe you can borrow them from somewhere. Get one for $5 or $10 off buy and sell. So depending on the size of fire you're having, all you really need is a little camping bow saw, or you maybe have a chainsaw or can borrow a chainsaw from somewhere. Make sure you know how to run one and you have chaps. I always wear chaps and steel-toed boots running a chainsaw. Of course, eye protection too, them little pieces get in your eye. So it's wintertime. You can have a large fire. Outdoor burning. Yeah, you don't have to have a 1.5 by 1.5 foot campfire. You don't need a fire ring because there's no debris to burn. You don't need a bucket of water or a spade shovel. You just put your fire out with snow. All right, where or how to get wood? Big companies that build trusses for buildings. End of the week, or sometimes the end of the day, they put out bins of cut ends. Take some cardboard boxes or some plastic totes and fill them up. Even if you got a car, you throw a few in your back seat, in your trunk. 3 boxes or 4 boxes. 3 boxes is lots. Construction sites. Sometimes they'll let you take all sorts of cut ends out of their garbage pile. Maybe you have a friend that has some split wood that you can just go snarf a few boxes full. Otherwise, you're using your pruning saw or a chainsaw. You can't cut anything within 50 meters of a stream, river, or lake, even if it's dead. Of course, it's always illegal to cut anything green. You can't cut anything in a recreation site or a campsite or a day use or a protected area. You need to check your map and see what's green. If it's got green square around it or whatever, there's no cutting wood in there at all. Some places you can't even camp in. Most of them you can, though. Only a few have rules. So, no camping rules. Some have no fire rules. If you've driven or walked into a campground or day use rec site, you'll find the fire rings. Just dig them out with your shovel. That's what you brought it for. So if you're laying your fire in the middle of nowhere, dig as much snow as you can, get down to the ground as best as you can. Try to pick a high area, not a low area, so all the melt doesn't just drain into your fire and put it out. If you're cutting your own wood, it has to be dead standing. And what I mean by that is a dead tree that's still standing is going to be dry. But a dead tree on the ground is, even if it looks dry or seems dry, it's just not going to burn good for you. It's going to have a little bit of rot. It's probably been there a while. It's had water brought into it and dried out just so many times. you want to get dead standing wood. Nothing more than about 8 inches is plenty. You don't want to be dealing with big pieces of wood to split and such. Softwood's good for starting the fire. Hardwood's good for keeping the fire going, burning hot and slow. Greenwood will never burn. Well, it'll burn, but it just has to spend so much of its energy keeping it going. You never get good coals, you never get good heat. All you're just getting for heat is the flames. Don't try to burn greenwood. And don't use fuels to help it burn better. As far as starting the fire, there's all sorts of different types of fire starter that you can buy at your fishing and camping departments in stores. And now the fun part, I'm going to show you how to prep your wood, how to split it and get your kindling and everything. All right, how to split around. You can aim your axe right onto that crack. This crack actually almost goes all the way through. Oh, nice and easy with the splitting maul. They're heavier and wider. So you want your legs spread apart and bent when you're chopping wood. That way, if you miss, it doesn't hit your leg. Sometimes maybe you have a powerful shot that shoots right through and keeps going, and then you'll miss your leg. Odd times it shoots off to the side. Hit and a miss, I guess. I still like doing it this way. I switch to the smaller axe now. So if your axe didn't split all the way through, you can finish prying it open if you don't want to take another swing at it. Another trick, so say it didn't go through all the way, science or physics or whatever it is, I don't know, I put my shoes on and tied my laces today, but a shot like upside down will split it instead of keeping to trying to doing this, you know, and swinging and this heavy thing. So another way is up backwards, and it splits it. So again, you could, you know. So at this point, I just keep cutting it up into pieces. I work around knots. I'll show you how I organize my kindling and pieces that can't be split. Safe kindling cutting. Place, tap. Place, fingers out of the way, tap. Place, tap. You know, you can take your hands right out of the way if you feel you need to. Don't laugh, everyone. Remember, this is for beginners that just don't know anything and want to come up and have fun. You know? These are better angles. So when you've dug down through the snow to the ground as far as you can, you're gonna want to lay down some shake-like pieces that I split there, some thin split pieces. Gives you a nice base for your fire. Definitely a must. That piece on top, I'll show you what that is for. That's just to keep your fire from collapsing on itself when you get it lit and have your tinder or fire starter and your kindling all on there. You will see there, that is all the wood I prepped out of that one round. The very back pieces, they have big knots in them. The 4 large ones on the right can't get split any smaller. So they get put in a pile for burning after our fire gets going. The smaller ones have knots as well, but they were ones that I was able to get a little smaller. So those get reserved for a different size of wood for the fire. Now that could go all the way down the list, but that's all the knots that that round had. All the rest is good, clean wood. It was easy to cut. So out of the last 4 piles, again, different sizes to get our fire going. So closest to us is the thin pieces of kindling, then the second row on the left is the next size up of kindling, and then to the right of that, another size up, and then above, same thing. So many different ways to have a fire. When I was kids, Dad did the pile of crumpled paper and the teepee all the time when we camped. So I just have these starter cubes. I'm going to just try and light them and lean them in there. I'm going to use a few. Why mess around? You're out there and just get your fire going easy. Now if you're using dry branches off trees, I find easier than kindling, to tell you the truth. In the summertime, just like you watch the bushcrafters on YouTube, they'll just drop a pile of dry branches on their tinder and poof, fire instant. Try and always sort through and find my thinnest ones and such. I kind of like the crisscross method. When I'm using kindling. Kind of change the direction again. So seems like I did it. You know, outside bark pieces tend to be wetter. So you put them on the edge. Alright, that's all my small kindling. Now my larger pieces. You gotta be patient. If you put too much on, you overload it, it'll collapse, your fire will go out. We're at the point now, we're just gonna wait a few seconds. Looks like it's struggling a bit, but it's going there. Look at. We've given it nice airspace. You know, you don't want your pieces too close. So we're just gonna let that sit here for a bit. So there's a point where you want to catch it before it falls over and collapses. And I like to try and gently start putting on some side pieces. I try and weasel it into the middle open up a bit there, and maybe one not so heavy, a lighter one here. Lighter ones first, but you see we're on to another size up now out of our prepared wood. Kind of got to be gentle a bit. I like to work 3 in up the sides. That's going to help keep it from collapsing. And then I kind of slowly try and put some on the front and back. Maybe not quite yet. What's my thinnest, driest piece here for top? Maybe let's put one up here. Maybe 2. Could be a gentle work of art. So got the corners now a bit. Maybe 2 at the front. They'll fall in. Like to put a couple at the rear there. And again, wait. So you can see that softwood burns pretty fast, quite high flames. If it was windy, you don't want to be too close to that. So, you know, again, you're a newbie and you might not know. Man, that'll singe your freaking eyebrows and face pretty nicely, and just a quick gust of wind pulls up. And you want to get some more wood on there before you don't have any good flames to keep the fire going. Again, you know, maybe find your smaller pieces out of the batch, even though they're mostly the same size, but smaller, drier ones that are from inside, not outside, and larger. See, we're just keeping it going perfectly here. We want to get our coals going. So it's time to put a little more on. At this point, it looks like it could get a little tap. Just a little bit. See, barely touching it and just bringing it down a bit. Try to keep everything TP'd. Now we're at the stage where we want to work the fire before it collapses. So all the way around the fire are these little pieces that burnt and are sticking out, because most of them burnt. We're going to poke those all in. That's the first thing we're going to start doing here, is working around the fire and poking those all in. So this one we can give it a little tap gently because we don't want everything else to collapse. Try and push that in. We're just going to hold off on that for a minute. That one, yeah, we can give that a... So dropping those down. Alright, here's one we can try and push in. Let's get this one here. because those are good little pieces to help keep our fire going when this all settles and drops, and when we're ready to start putting larger pieces of wood on. I want to keep it TP style. Tap them at the ends a bit, push them in. Okay, so we can kind of try and get this to drop now a bit. See, those are all coals on the top of these pieces, so they're ready to break and fall down. Swing that over, keep it all teepee style, like I said. The ones that are underneath are fine. So now we've developed a nice bed of coals in there that's about this high. That was about 25 to 30 minutes of burning since we started the fire. Now we can put these in. We got a little wet from tree dripping. Some of these pieces are a little too big, really. I wouldn't put them on if I were you. I'll be putting them on, but I'd always be aiming for pieces just this size or a little bigger. They burn easier. They'll get you some coals easier. I'll only put 2 on. Those others are too thick. Yeah, I threw those last large pieces on anyway. They seem to have caught just fine. So one important thing, I was watching an episode of that Beach Survivor TV show several years ago when it had started. And the guy was trying to get the fire going, blowing on the coals to get a flame. And ended up inhaling a bunch of fire and smoke. Wind direction must have changed. So, you know, he was down there huffing and puffing, no problem, and then next thing you know, you've burnt the inside of your body. And he was off the show and had to get airlifted out. So if you're ever blowing on coals or the fire, what have you, to get it going, you know, pull your head right out of there, turn your face in the other direction to inhale. And get back to business and a bunch of back and forth. So, you know, kind of going to blow on it. So, you know, something you might not have thought of, and this is a beginner show, and I want to try and cover everything I can think of. So I brought up a cold handled skillet, and I'm going to probably heat up some leftovers. And then we just put the fire out with snow and we're done. So I actually decided to take those 4 large pieces off because I'm just going to cook dinner over the coals. And it's going to be time to head home soon. Noodles, ginger beef, sweet and sour pork. Yum Yum Tree at Capri Center Mall in Kelowna, BC. Best fast food Asian cooking. So good. Even the next day and the day after. Very good. Maybe I can get that off the coals a bit. So I dumped water on it. Now you want to mix it and stir it. And some more water. It doesn't take a lot of water in the wintertime or snow to have a fire completely out. So there's no way that's starting again. It's out. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you're able to get out for your first time and have a good time. Thank you.